Hello, my name is Maris, and welcome to my show, Critical Root Zone, where we dig deep with inquiring minds to get to the root of sustainability, going below the surface to rebuild trust while supporting all voices on our journey to a climate-positive planet. In this episode of Breaking Ground, we will first introduce Howard Gentry. This man is Black history and a vital part of the fabric of Nashville, Tennessee. Yes, actions like composting, recycling, reducing, and reusing, they're important. But there are deeper challenges at the root of it all. Without the unity of the human race, we will never be able to heal Mother Earth. After meeting Howard, I knew I had to share his story as it relates directly to healing each other as well as the planet. I'm excited to introduce you to my first guest of the People and Planet series, Howard Gentry. Welcome, Howard. Welcome to CRZ.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Finally, we're here together. Yes.
I'm so excited for you to be here. Thank you.
I'm excited too.
Well, to start this whole thing off, I want to talk about you and your story.
Okay.
We met at a pickleball tournament.
Yes, we did.
Here
That's
in
a story
Nashville.
all by itself, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's when you're becoming pro pickleball player.
That's when I found out I wasn't pro. Yeah.
And I think we talked, Frederick, hey, Frederick.
Hey, Frederick.
He was cleaning up after everybody and everything, letting us chat.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to meet you that day and just be able to, we were like, nobody else was around, honestly.
Yeah.
We were just having our conversation.
But I do want to apologize to Frederick. He was really working. I
did
really
it on
should have at
purpose.
least picked something up and helped him.
He said it was on purpose. He just kept waving at us, keep talking,
All right.
just keep
Well,
talking.
I'm sorry, Frederick. Anyway.
He saw our future.
He
We
did.
talked about this later.
He
He
did.
really saw our future together. And it was then that I realized, oh yeah, this is the beginning of where we really get to the root of what I'm starting to learn now in sustainability is so much deeper. There's a lot deeper concepts. And that's why you're here today.
It is.
And I said in the intro, I said, you are Black history in Nashville, Tennessee. And you're a civil rights activist leader from the time you were born. Like, you were born and bred to be this leader. But there has been struggle through that. And there's been your story, right? Your story. I'd love to share that with people and what you've been through and where you come from.
Well, first thing, civil rights leader is a hard title for me to carry because the truth is that the true leaders, I know that in different generations they're different people, but the true leaders, the ones that really from slavery all the way through to Martin Luther King to the leaders that we have locally, they really blazed the trail. They really took the abuse and even to death. And, I'm a product of the sacrifices that they made. Now, I will accept it because the majority of them, I'm sorry, and I hate this, are gone. And when my mother passed 2 years ago, that was a civil rights leader that I always looked up to, and she's gone. And as I look around, it reminds me of when John Lewis and a lot of the freedom writers came through Nashville and came to my church, and he made a statement to me that they lit the fire, but that they might not get to walk through it. Mm-hmm. And I never understood it, really. And I still don't quite get it, but they got it. And the fact is, I'm walking now, and they're gone, the majority of them. And so here I am. So I receive it proudly but humbly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a big part of it, too, is that communication.
Yes.
And being able to have that conversation with you. And acknowledging that, because there's a lot of barriers for that conversation, and that's why people aren't having it. Yeah. And that's why we're having it. And here's the conversation, right? I recognize that there's a divide between people, and that's why this series is called Planet People and Planet Series, because we cannot heal the earth without healing each other, and we need to love ourselves in order to love each other. So there's just so many layers to that.
Right.
And your position now, which we're going to talk about a little more in the next episode, and what you do in society and how you help people, that is also a huge part of this, and where you've been leading up to that. You explained that to me, and I want you.
Okay. Well, I'll do that because even though I just said I didn't understand it, that they were talking to the first African American elected countywide in Nashville, and that was me. And I ended up the first vice mayor African American in Nashville, and then the first constitutional officer African American. I guess that's the fire they were talking about, and the fact at that time they had not chosen to take those routes, even though John Lewis did go to Congress, but he wasn't the first, and so I guess that's what they were really meaning. And so, but my life has been about first. It really has. I was the son of Howard and Carrie Gentry, and they were both came from different parts of the United States. My mother from Sparta, Georgia. My dad from Columbus, Ohio. Both their parents were born into slavery. My great-grandparents on both sides of the family were the slave owners. And my great-grandmothers bore children on both sides of my family from the slave owner. And that has been a little tough to deal with over time, but you can't change history. You can't change reality. The conflicting part with me is if they hadn't done it, I wouldn't be here. So I have to thank God for life, and God had a plan, and I'm not going to question His plan. And then, of course, I had to grow through segregation right here in Nashville, and I was old enough to be a person that was a victim of integration. Couldn't swim in the swimming pools, couldn't go to the parks, couldn't play on Little League teams, couldn't go to Boy Scout camp where the white kids were, couldn't eat in restaurants right up the street from my house, and being called the names that they called us, and couldn't even use the bathroom in the state capitol where the white kids were able to use, had to sit in the balcony at the Symphony Hall, the old one that we used to have, and bought tickets at the movie theater, and then had to walk down the alley and walk up the alley steps into the rafters to go watch a movie. And so had to go through that. And our parents, during all that, our preachers and our teachers were trying to let us know that in spite of the fact that we couldn't go to school with the white kids, that our books were tattered and torn and second and third hand, that everything there was gold, and everything that they were teaching us, everything that teachers were doing, everything Martin Luther King and all the civil rights activists were doing at that time, they were paving a way. They said the books and the words in the books were golden. In other words, the same words, just a tattered book, the same streets, just different side of the street. And so one day, a time was going to come when you were be able to take your rightful place in society, and you had to be prepared for it. And we, as young people, had to trust that. Because we weren't seeing it. We only knew the history, and the history was slavery and hangings and beatings and suppression and what have you, poverty, climate, environmental crimes where we lived in livable areas and survived anyway. The fact is that in spite of all those things, we had to believe that. And so we were raised to understand where we were. That's why I have a trouble with that critical, whatever they call it in schools now, where you can't teach the history.
Right.
If I had not learned the history, if I had not really understood slavery and how it occurred and the hangings and the killings, the bad stuff.
Sure.
If I had not learned that, I would not have been prepared for the good stuff. I would not have. I wouldn't have understood. I wouldn't have understood how important it was to not continue to stay in the past, but to work into the future with those around me that didn't look like me, to learn what not to do, how not to treat people that didn't look like me, that didn't act like me, that didn't come where I came from.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have learned that, so I'd have been just like the people that mistreated me. Instead, I was better than that. I didn't say better than them, better than that. And that prepared me to be able to move forward with an understanding that it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be fair, but it's going to be. It's going to be. And a lot of it is up to me and how I handle myself through that.
Amen.
And so that's a quick snapshot. It's a whole lot of stories behind all that I just threw out there.
Yes.
But I think what I threw out there kind of lets you know where I am today and why I am today.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you shared such a special story with me recently about the reunion of your family. And, you know, what you've been through because of the slave owners raping your family brought you here today, right? And you've had some anger in your heart, because who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And I can't think about even enduring that in the slightest bit. I would never know.
So
that story.
And that word
So
I was trying to
touching.
think of was critical race theory.
Critical race theory.
When I was talking to the in school. So yes, and this is a lesson for everybody. I believed, you know, I don't think I was a bad kid, but I was an angry kid. Even though people say how nice I am, and I am. I really try to be nice, but that's a work in progress. But I was an angry kid because all those things affected me. You know, they all affected me. The fact that I integrated Little League Baseball with Walter Overton and Daniel Bender and Robbie Cobb, but why did I have to integrate it? I integrated the swimming pool. I mean, Daniel Walker and the guys swam in the first time, but I came in afterwards. Why did I have to do that? I integrated with my Boy Scout troop, Camp Boxwell, but why did I have to do that? I mean, you can honor me for doing it, but the shame of it was that I did. So it always bothered me that I came from a white man, but I got treated like I was dirt. How do you treat me like I'm dirt and I'm you? And so I always in my heart said, if I ever I wasn't going to get to meet my great-granddaddy. I wasn't going to probably meet, I never knew a grandparents, so they died before I was born. But if I ever get to meet somebody that is related to me that doesn't look like me, this is one time I'm going to go away from everything my parents taught me, and I'm going to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe it's just what I'm going to say to you, but I'm not going to be nice. At 70 years old, I got my opportunity. I went to my family reunion in West Virginia that I've never been to, that one, where the kids and the grandkids of the slave owners' brothers and sisters, my second cousins, had their reunion.
Right.
And, of course, I went. And I got there, and just to be quick, there were a lot of emotions taking place because I met the ones that looked like me the night before the bonfire, but I had not met any white relatives, and I didn't know I really was. I just assumed that there might be somebody there. Well, we got to the reunion the next day, and it was all these white people, and I'm like, I told my daughter, I was like, maybe we're at the wrong reunion, but I wasn't.
I like when you told me the story the first time. You said, "Daddy, yes, we are.
Yes, we are, Daddy." And you're going to have to get ready because my kids, I'm very open, if you don't know this.
Yes.
And so I talk to my kids the way my parents and people talk to me, and I explain stuff. I explain my feelings, and this is where I'm coming from because I don't think that there's a white person in Nashville that can say I've ever treated them bad because of their race. Now, if we disagree, that's a different problem. But I've always worked hard to not do that. That doesn't mean if you're doing something wrong to me is that I'm going to like it. I'm going to treat you bad because of what you're doing to me.
Right.
But not because of who you are. But they didn't know that I was fighting this demon the whole time. I really wanted to, or I really would have, and it really wouldn't have been hard not to. But I came face to face with a second cousin who was white. And I didn't know really he was my cousin until I talked to my cousin. He was third cousin, I'm sorry. And he was in arms with my third cousin that I really knew. No, I'm not. No, it's my second cousin, yeah. And so I didn't know. I didn't know whether he was her husband. I just didn't know. And so after I got through talking to her, I said, well, I'm Howard. Who are you? He said his name. I said, so how do you get here? I know this is my first time. He said, it's my first time too. Mm-hmm. And I said, so are we related? He said, yep. I said, how? He said, same way she's related. My grandmama and his grandmama were sisters. And my grandmother and her grandmother were sisters. And I just stopped. And I said, okay, it's your chance. Mm-hmm. Lord, what am I going to do? And I hugged him. Mm. And I kept hugging him. And tears came in my eyes. I got very emotional. I just said, man, just give me a second. And I just hugged him. And I hugged him. He didn't hug me back because he probably was wondering what the heck is wrong with me. And I hugged him. And finally, I let him go. And I said, thank you. Mm. And I hugged the hate away. Mm. I hugged the anger away. I prayed that I would handle this the right way. Right then I prayed before I hugged him, and my prayer was answered. And it opened a space in my heart, a very dark space in my heart. It opened a space in my soul, my brain, everything, to utilize, to handle this in the proper way. Mm. And so I told him my dilemma.
Right.
Well, he told me his family didn't want him to come to our reunion, and he was about my age, and he made a decision to bring his sisters and brothers and kids and everybody.
Y'all were going through the same thing.
And we were going through the same thing, different ways.
Right.
Because his family still didn't associate with ours. So they're Gores and Davidsons and what have you. I come from Gore and Davidson. I'm a Gentry. Gore and Davidson, Gore again, and Davidson. If y'all know a Gore, yeah, I'm in that family, and they didn't choose to associate with us. He made that step, and so it allowed me to really be open at this reunion, to really get to know my history and not be clouded or have the anchor or the weight of my feelings and my emotions for over 60 years. Wow. To dictate, but also to keep me from being able to receive everything I need to receive that weekend. Yes. My whole family is going next year. Mm. My kids, I got 4 girls and 6 grandkids.
Shoot, I want to go. Can I go
nephews,
too?
Everybody's coming to West Virginia.
Yeah.
Bluefield and Princeton, West Virginia next year for the reunion because they want to. My 22-year-old that was with me had a ball. I never saw her. She got with her cousins and they just hung for a whole weekend.
I love that.
And I did see her but she was out late.
Doing her thing.
Yeah, but the fact is that that did happen. I know it's a long story, and I'm sorry that I took too long.
You did not take too long. We still got time, honestly.
Yeah,
you can say whatever you need to say.
that other people, not just African Americans, but other people, get someday in their life to release what I got to release.
Yes.
Because to allow something to have control of you for that long and to actually affect your ability to be the best person you can be for that long, you have to miss something in life to do that. So I used to call this anger, this monster inside of me that I always wanted to come out and lash out at folks. So as a young kid, what happened is I did lash out at other people that might do something to me. You call me a name or do something, I would always get upset because I didn't want anybody to. And if I saw somebody discriminating against another person or mistreating somebody, I would always jump in. And you think, well, that's a great trait. Well, sometimes I was a little over the top with that. And a lot of times I jumped in where I wasn't really, it was not necessary, or I didn't have a right so to speak.
That's a lesson in itself.
Yeah.
I feel like I relate to you on that because I want to protect everybody and everything, and sometimes.
But it wasn't coming from as positive a place as I wish it had.
Sure.
Because of the fact that I was being controlled by anger that was created by not the people that were in front of me right then.
Right, exactly.
But
you were
another.
holding on to something else.
So a lot of people, and I guess even my kids and family were getting something from me that they probably didn't create or deserve. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know if there's very many people in Nashville that can tell you I'm an angry person or a mean person or I mean, sometimes I get criticized politically from being too nice. But I think that people just don't know the battle that rages inside of people, especially when you're trying to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
And so I give people a pass sometimes on their actions.
Because you need a pass sometimes.
Yeah, because I do, and because you never know what's going on inside of them.
Oh, that's so. We're starting this series off exactly where it needs to be. Thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you.
And I'm just excited because what you're talking about is literally the root of a lot of what everyone is carrying around. And do you think that also has something to do with sustainability, right?
Absolutely.
In how we all think about the planet and the environment has a lot to do with how we think of each other and how we think of ourselves and what we carry on a regular basis. And I'm excited to get into a little bit more about what you do in the next episode, and kind of link that in. And my second guest, who I won't say his name just yet because it's going to be a surprise. He's written a book that also speaks so much on this topic, and his personal story is incredible. So
well, he's going to have a great story. And I will say this, and it's time for us to go. If you treat people bad, you're going to treat the environment bad because that is your personality. That's who you are. That's your DNA.
It's your character.
And it's your character or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't just stop at people. It stops at everything that you feel superior to, you feel more privileged than, and better than. And so it absolutely affects the environment because normally the people you mistreat are struggling the most with the environmental problems.
Wow. Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So up next, we're going to be getting deeper with Howard. We're going to talk about his role as the criminal court clerk of Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County. And I love to hear from everyone. So please shoot me an email if you have any comments, stories, feedback. If you want to be on the show, let me know. I have an amazing team here at Elm Hill Studios, and they are looking for other people to help with their podcasts and make all their podcast dreams come true. So all you have to do is email me. It's criticalrootzone@gmail.com. And there's a new trademark at the end here. For the People and Planet series, until the next episode of CRZ, we can only love the planet if we love each other. And in order to love each other, we must first love ourselves. So remember to ask questions, inspire others to do better, and anything is possible when we stand united. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Critical Root Zone. If you'd like to reach out, email us at criticalrootzone@gmail.com. Critical Root Zone is produced in Nashville, Tennessee, copyright 2022.